that mankind may have life and have it more abundantly. This is the everlasting promise of nature. The good things of the earth have been placed within our reach, but man has never been relieved of the responsibility of earning them. He has had to gain wisdom and understanding to adapt this incredible goodness to his needs. And so, through the years, man has watched and studied the great natural forces that were meant to serve him. Electricity was once a frightening thing, but not anymore. We have learned how to channel its power into telephones, radios, refrigerators, electric lights. It is one of the prime movers of the age in which we live. The wind was a wild, untamed thing, comrade of space and the stars, until man learned how to make it work for him. Water anywhere is potential power, but uncontrolled it is also unpredictable. So man built dams. And behold, this pent-up power becomes a tremendous agency for good. Here is desolation. Good land once, until man let the topsoil wash away. But topsoil is the very source of life, and man is learning to conserve it so that nature may give more abundantly of all the growing things of field and hill. In his endless struggle to avert starvation, man has been striving for a better understanding of nature's laws. The gains he has made are witnessed in our bounteous crops. Even so, and quite as the Bible warns us, there's a time for sowing and a time for reaping. But the time for reaping is so very short. That perhaps is why man has always made so much of harvest, made it a time of festival or prayer. For he knows his life depends on swiftly gathering in the bounty nature gives him. Thus, in America, we have always offered thanks for the blessings of the earth. Which reminds us how the harvest tided our forefathers through lean and hungry winters. By the same token, spring has ever been a time of rejoicing, of joy in the promise of still another harvest, when field and tree again bring forth a profusion of delicious gifts that beckon us to come and gather in. But nature has a way of holding out her bounty, then snatching it away. All too quickly it is gone. True, it serves to re-enrich the soil, but as for man's immediate needs, a total loss. Of course, all growing things are contained within a protective covering. But it occurred to man that if he could provide a permanent protective covering for the bounty of nature, he could then readily extend the harvest season until every day in the year became a day of plenty. A simple idea, but one of great promise. Today, its perfection is a man-made miracle. We refer to it, and rightly so, as the miracle of the can. But we've been talking about man as if women didn't exist, which is most unfair. Let's go back to a hot summer's day around the year 1900, when in households across the land this was happening.
You know, Lucy, if we can get all these tomatoes put up today, we can start on the corn tomorrow.
Ooh, that'll be good.
Heavens above, Jim, the last thing we need right now is more tomatoes. We got twice what we can put up now. I mean it, Jim. Take them back outside and don't bring any more.
Now, don't take off on me, Martha. It's not my fault we had so many this year. Fact is, I figured you'd be glad we got such a good crop.
Oh, of course I'm glad, but I haven't got time to put up any more.
All right, all right. What'll I do with these?
Oh, feed them to the pigs.
Feed them to the pigs. What a waste of good tomatoes.
Yes, waste was the word, and no way to beat it. But along about that time, things were happening that would change all that.
You know, John, I hear they're putting up fruits and vegetables better than we can now, over near Fairport.
Who is they?
The canneries. And what with the sugar and all the other seasoning and the cooking and whatnot, it costs less, too.
Well, if that's true, why do you slave over a hot stove when you can get them right down at the store? For that matter, why do I waste my time with these trees and bust my back over the plow? Golly. Next season, I'll put in smaller crops.
No, bigger crops.
Bigger? Now, how in the world do you figure that?
Well, it's our chance to save some money. Why, we can sell our fruit to the canneries and plant more and more things to sell them right through the seasons. And then if the crops come in good, we can put by enough money to send the boy to college.
So he can be a better farmer than me and grow more crops?
Sure, to sell to the canneries.
You know, Mary, that's quite an idea you've got there.
That it was, and it caught on. Farmers began to plant more and more acres, improved their yield, lifted their farm incomes to higher levels, adding purchasing power that gladdened the hearts of entire families. And a new agricultural era was in the making, all through the growing demand for canned foods. But in those days, progress was limited by the old-fashioned hole and cap can. Many things, for instance, had to be cut up and forced through the hole in the top of the can. Filling cans was therefore a slow process. After filling, a cap had to be soldered over the hole by hand, and that required a lot of work, to say nothing of an equally important element, time. Result? They just couldn't turn out canned foods fast enough to keep up with the growing demand.
Careful.
What else, Mrs. Moran?
Well, I need some peas, 3 cans of peas. There's your candy.
That's the last of the peas, Mrs. Moran. Can't seem to stock up enough for you folks.
Well, why don't you order more?
Ma'am, I could order till the cows come home. But if the cannery don't have 'em, they can't send 'em. And if they don't send 'em, I can't sell 'em. Comes to $3.18.
$3.18.
Mm-hmm.
My. When are prices coming down? About these peas, Mr. Peters. Why can't the cannery send you enough?
Well, ma'am, it isn't only the cannery. I was over there the other day pestering 'em for more. My customers are asking for 'em, says I. Can't give 'em to you, says he. Why not, says I. Don't ask me, says he. Ask the can maker. So I took the buggy and drove over to the can maker, and I did ask him.
I know you folks. You can't be told. You've got to be shown. So let's take a look around. Now here's where we cut the body blanks. This man here is forming the can body. Here he's soldering the side seams.
Pretty slow work.
And over here, they're soldering on the tops and the bottoms. Say, Frank, our friend here is hollering for more canned goods. How many cans do you think we'll turn out today?
Oh, you can figure on maybe 600.
There you are. I've got 3 men soldering here. They can turn out only 600 cans a day. We got calls for a lot more than that.
Why don't you hire more men?
You find them and I'll hire 'em. Solderers don't grow on trees. But by golly, fruit does. The crops are coming in right now. Canneries are crying for cans. And you think you got problems?
Now, mind you, ma'am, our local can maker's as good as any of them. But it's just that can making is a slow process. Here, Jimmy, come over here. I want to show you something, son. Here's a lesson you learn in school someday. Crop and can geography, you might say. Now, here's us. Here's the can-making plant. Here's the cannery. And here's the farmland. Farmers are planting more land all the time, putting in more and more crops, because the cannery is here to take care of them. Now, just imagine this same thing taking place all over. Oh, there are lots of canneries and can makers in the growing areas. But when harvest time rolls around, the crops come in, it's the same story everywhere. They're all swamped with orders that they just can't fill.
Yes, it was apparent that the task of serving a whole nation was too big for the can production capacity available in those days. The need was clear for a pooling of resources in the interest of better experimentation, research, engineering skill, and greater can production. So, many can makers did combine their facilities and pool their knowledge to form the American Can Company. Thus, in 1901, was laid the foundation for advancements in can making destined to serve mankind in war as well as peace. But despite much early progress in can making, it continued to be a slow process. Part of the trouble was the can itself. It didn't lend itself to mass production. Then came a development that was to have far-reaching effect.
Say, you're right, Harry. This is different. Certainly is a new basic idea in can making. Let me see that. No hole in the top?
Nope. Canners get them with this end entirely open, so they can pack whole tomatoes or peaches or other fruits and vegetables in this can. Don't have to cut things up. Consumers will love that.
How's it sealed? Solder?
No, that's another advantage, Jim. No solder on the ends at all.
No solder? Well, how?
Well, we've got a machine that crimps the ends on with a rubber composition gasket to keep them tight. It's slow, but with your help, I think we can figure out a way to speed it up.
You know, it seems to me that canners should be able to fill and close these faster than the old hole-in-cap can. And it'll cut their cost down. What's it called, Harry?
The sanitary can.
Sanitary can. Good name. By golly, if we just work out a way to turn these out in quantity, and fast.
That's just what's needed, fellas. Let's get to work.
And get to work they did, making improvements both in the can and the machinery for its mass production and efficient use in canneries, and also in plants packing a host of non-food products. But while their efforts and those of many others were limited by the engineering developments of their day, by the continued necessity for much handwork, they were destined to revolutionize not only an industry, but the distribution techniques, the shopping habits, the very standard of diet of hundreds of millions of people. For as combined knowledge and increased experience of these pioneer can makers began to catch hold, the tempo in each plant quickened. The volume rose, 10,000 cans a day, 25,000, 50,000. Yes, man finally had created the real answer for preserving the fruits of land and sea indefinitely. Thus, farmers were encouraged to plant more land and sell their increased crops to the canners. And the swing to more profitable farming lifted property values everywhere. The same expansion was going on in the fishing industry and the meat packing industry. Better breeds, bigger herds, due to the greater capacity of packers to can meat products. All this because the can-making industry had faced and met nature's challenge. Here is my limitless bounty for the taking. Protect it well. So today, man controls the use of nature's gifts far beyond the time of harvest. At last, man has the means for using the natural resources of this great land to the utmost intended by its creator, thanks to the formation and growth of a great enterprise. Moreover, far more people, earning far more, have a part in this industry today than could possibly have found employment under the antique methods of the past. Today, the can-making industry turns out billions of metal cans a year. Why, one modern can line alone produces over 200,000 cans in a single day. Remember Frank and his 600 cans a day? Well, it would take Frank with his old-fashioned machines and more than 60,000 can makers working with him, at least 25 years to produce the billions of cans turned out by the industry every year. But, as in countless other industries here in our country, each man on a can-making line today produces far more because of the modern equipment he has to work with. Naturally, this greater production means higher wages, higher standards of living, and even lower food costs for us all. Now let's see how this manufacturing miracle is brought to pass. It begins here with steel. Steel made to exacting specifications determined by the can maker's metallurgists, men who have pioneered with steel producers to achieve this superior product for can-making needs. These particular sheets of steel are already coated with a very thin layer of tin, and thus called tin plate. In making cans, it is necessary to ensure the absolute protection of their contents when the cans are later filled and sealed. So the coating being added here is an additional protective enamel lining used for certain products. In this baking oven, it is dried and hardened. When the plates with the coating baked to a golden color emerge from the oven, they are ready to be made into cans for foods like corn, lima beans, and countless other products. Next, the plate is cut into the right shapes and sizes to form can bodies on this machine called a slitter. are body blanks. Meanwhile, other plate, cut to proper size, is fed into machines which stamp out the ends.